12 noon. Going to work. If anybody's been watching like daily, probably was asking yourself like, oh, what he just not going, he not gonna go live today? I'm gonna go live today. I'm just gonna go live. I'm going to work. So this morning we had a dental appointment for 5 of the 6 kids. Well, 4 of the 6. The baby doesn't have there's only 2 people in the no cavity gang right now. You got the baby, who has about, let me see, 4, 2, 10. He's got about 10, and he's got 4 coming in. 4 of the canines are coming in. So the baby's got a bunch of teeth coming in. Everything looks good. Plenty of space in there. The 7-year-old, he's got 0 cavities. The 5-year-old, yuck mouth. The 14-year-old, trash mouth. The 16-year-old, he's pretty okay. He's more concerned with the cosmetic. So he's bleaching the top and leaving the bottom the same. Now that works if you have like a small smile, like if you just like talk like that. But he's a pretty expressive kid, and so like you'll see a lot of the bottom, and so you can see now like his top row is like blue white. It's really white, and then the bottom is like natural melanated white/yellow, and so it looks a little bit strange. It's like blue and yellow, but he doesn't care. He's good with his blue white teeth on the top, so he's good. But in terms of cavities, he just doesn't floss enough. Then one thing, we drink a lot of well water because I don't have faith in the water in the South. Like once that whole thing with Mississippi happened, I was like, okay, so we know in terms of evil, Mississippi is the most evil state in the 50 states of the Union. The most evil towards people of color. And then Alabama is in a close second. And so Mississippi was being that evil, not upgrading infrastructure for the people of color in the areas of concerning them. Why would the playbook be any different in Alabama? So I just don't drink the water from the faucet. I don't. But the problem is that takes away your source of fluoride. And fluoride is this chemical that a lot of people, even our current Secretary of Health, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they're against fluoridated water. But the thing and the benefit of fluoride is it helps make teeth more resistant to decay, more resistant to cavitation or cavities. And so when you're not drinking that tap water, that's what happens. You're gonna have a higher incidence of tooth decay. Now me coming in the military as a dentist and having went through 4 years of dental training and just always kind of being like a tooth conscious person. You know, I've had a cavity for years. And so one would think that my kids would also be the same, in the same boat. But the 14-year-old, man, we went there to get the cavities fixed. And the dentist said, man, I got back there in that little kid's mouth, and he has 2 new cavities. So the message is not resonating with that one. So you're gonna have to do a little bit more work. And one of the things that the 14 and the 16-year-old both do is they get up after they've been sent to bed and they'll snack and they'll watch television. And that's not a big deal, but the problem is when you have kids that get like midnight snacks and then go back to bed. Why is that a problem? From a dental perspective, you have, like during the day, you're talking and you're just, your mouth is moving a lot. Saliva production is a little bit higher during the day than as opposed to when you're sleeping. And so saliva, it has a function where it pushes away all of the stuff that is going to cause decay. It helps with that process. And so when you're sleeping, that process is not as good. And so when you have when you wake up in the night, grab a bite to eat, you don't brush after, and you just get back into bed, now you have a bunch of starch, sugar, which the cavity causing bacteria, that's what they're looking for, is sugar. So basically you got this perfect environment for the bacteria to just kind of eat, get fat, and poop out byproduct. The byproduct that they're pooping out is acid, and that acid is breaking down the bone. So gradually you can have, just the undermining of tooth structure, and you just get a bunch of cavities in your mouth. And so that's what we have the 14-year-old doing. And he's like this brilliant kid, but he's got blind spots. He thinks he knows everything, and nobody else knows anything. And so try to tell him, look, man, this is what's happening. But I guess he's going to have to learn the hard way. So we did that in the morning. And in the afternoon, I ended up requesting one of my colleagues. My colleague was giving a group lecture. And so I said, hey, man, let me let my kids in on that lecture. And so I let them in on that. And then this afternoon, I'm really just going in. Today is quote unquote morale day. So we have our luxurious baseball jersey, squadron baseball jersey. It says the Bulls, because that's our mascot, Bulls. So I'm getting ready to go and just do nothing but grade papers. This week is like hell week for teachers. So our ops officer, the number 2 in command, he has a potential to get hit with jury duty, Air Force jury duty. And so because of that potential, we all have to lean forward and complete and grade all of our work by Friday. I think he said at noon. And so nightmare scenario. They're turning in stuff and we have to turn around and grade it probably 1 to 2 nights. We have about 3 nights to grade, but it's on a condensed schedule. There's 3 different products due this week, and we have to grade them all and have all of that stuff into the grade book by noon. So that's why I'm just coming here in the afternoon, and we're just gonna grade papers, finish all of that stuff up, and try to finish up the grade book. So update on the status of how the flight is doing. The flight, they did pretty good. So yesterday they had Project X. My mentor slash vice commandant of the school, he comes down and he's like, what's the number, guys? And I'm like, what is he talking about? What's the number? And one of my classmates said 2. And so what that meant was, they explained it to me that if we get 2 right, they can dunk me in water at one of the obstacle courses. And I said, don't listen to him. He said, oh, okay, so don't listen to the colonel. I said, absolutely not. Do not listen to the colonel. That is not lawful order. Do not put me in that water. And so at the end of the 7 obstacles, they ended up solving 3. And they were acting like they were going to try to throw me in the water. But I said, nah, don't do that. Don't do that. Because I haven't finished putting the grades in the grade book. So you definitely don't want to do that. And they ended up not doing it. I was able to talk my way out of that. But, thankfully, because a couple of my colleagues, they actually did get dunked in the water. And so that's it's cool, it's like a tradition or whatever. But I did notice as I was videotaping my colleagues getting thrown in the water that there was like a Band-Aid, like a used Band-Aid in the water. And so, yeah, I was doubly glad that I didn't get thrown in that water, because I probably would have took some people with me. If they would have tried to grab me, we gonna have to we gonna have to squabble, because I'm not going in here by myself. But they backed off eventually. But anyway, getting ready to go to work, pulling up to the gate. Yeah, this class is almost over. That's crazy. This was a 5-week course. This is week 4. And next week is really just putting finishing touches. Because honestly, a lot of times there's not a lot of lectures in that final week. And so, should be fun. Should be fun. This is the last class that is going to follow this particular curriculum. And so the next class is a 5-week period, but we're not going to actually have students in this class. We're going to be building or putting the finishing touches and doing training on the new curriculum. And then the following class, like July time frame, we're going to roll out a brand new curriculum that's going to involve a lot of physical fitness. And so I'm excited. Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm like, hey man, this is what I actually joined the military for. I joined the military because I thought we were gonna be out here running and jumping and hiding and doing all types of fitness type activities. And so this is right up my alley. And I'm like, I'm getting paid to work out. So like, who would not be excited for that? Well, turns out a lot of people ain't gonna be excited, but I'm one of them dudes that is gonna be excited. So.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, all right. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Everybody okay?
Okay, you too.
Thank you.
I wanted the excitement level that she got. She got a lot of excitement.
Turn around and try it again. See you later.
I love her. She said, turn around and come back again. Yeah, not gonna do it. She got me though. She got me. That was good, Erin Prophet. That was good. Go back off and come back on, and we'll give it another shot. Yeah, man. So I'm gonna go up in there, make it do what it do, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this new curriculum because exercising, running around, and getting ready for this next fight. Although I don't know if I'm gonna be able to even go to the next fight, honestly, and the way my back's set up. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see. They might call all hands on deck, and they could put waivers for everything. So there's probably a waiver for my little health condition. Because honestly, if I'm the Secretary of Defense, if we got people that's in the military that can't deploy and can't go to fight, we gotta get them out of there. Or maybe we're gonna have to put them in a job where, one of them jobs that don't nobody really want to do but has to be done. Maybe that's what they'll have to do. And it's not as punishment, it's just effective force distribution. Anyway, I ain't got a lot to talk about today. No complaints. I'm gonna show y'all something though. I told y'all in the past that this is this base has a federal prison. See that guy in the brown and green? That's a prisoner. That's a prisoner. That is a modern day slave. Modern day slave. That's what we have resorted to. The other day, I went into the store to buy some socks. And so here's my complaint with the military. Here's one of my complaints. I went into the store, on base military store, to buy socks. And the only socks that were available were socks that were manufactured in the USA by the Federal Bureau of Prisoners or prisons or something like that. Basically, it was like goods that were manufactured by prisoners. And that was the only option that I had if I wanted to buy socks. And so I felt like that was wrong. You know, I don't know what the two of y'all in the chat think about that. But like, to me, that just doesn't seem like freedom. It doesn't seem like freedom. I understand the 13th Amendment allows for people essentially going back into slavery if they're a prisoner. But I look at it like this. If you are criminalizing things that probably shouldn't be criminalized, if the prisons are so overcrowded, maybe some of those offenses don't necessarily warrant jail time. But if you have incentivized keeping the prisons full for production of cheap labor, it just seems like it's a conflict of interest, especially when you have the justice system working hand in hand with the prison system. And it's a prison system that's not run like by the federal government. These are like private contracted prisons. So it's like all of this conflict of interest baked into this entire process, but it's also hand in hand with the military. I feel like the military should not be able to benefit from those goods produced by prisoners. Something ethically just don't sit right with me about that process. And like previous version of me would have just not bought those socks. I'd say, you know what? I'm going to the BX where they sell other socks not made by prisoners. I would rather pay more money than compromise my beliefs. But today me was like, well, I ain't gonna be late because I already got hit upside the head for being late. They hit me upside my head so many times, here in this unit, and made such a big stink out of it. They got the point across. Point has been made. So now I be here honestly before my commander and before the number 2, because like it only took me a couple of times, a couple of lumps on the head, before it was like, oh, I get it now. I'm hurting myself. I'm telling you, man, like it eats at me to see men of color. These men of color on this base, prisoners, they out here making 7 cents per hour. 7 cents per hour. They doing that. That's one of them. He got the green. They doing work that if they were on the outside, they probably would be getting paid 25 cents. Sorry, $25 per hour. On base, they're making 7 cents an hour. 7 cent. 7 cent. 7 cent. 7 cents. If I work an 8-hour day, I literally almost made half over. No, I almost made 50 cents. Because don't forget, even though they're prisoners, they still getting tax taken out of their check. So it's probably about 50. They probably make about 50 cents. But that's evil to me, man. That's evil. But this is the problem when you start thinking too much. And honestly, the difference between officer and enlisted, they used to say like the officers were like thinkers and leaders and all of that stuff, but it's less marked. I don't think there ever really was truly a difference. It's really just a difference in how they're treated. Um, but yeah, man, that blows my mind. Like, if you start thinking critically about the process, thinking critically um, about foreign policy, about how the government functions, how the military functions within the government, the military's role within the federal government against domestic, against foreign. If you start thinking too much, we actually don't want you to think. We just want you to do. We want you to think about how to do it better, but we don't want you to think about what you're doing. But yeah, that's just something I try not to reflect on too much, honestly. Um, yeah. At the end of the day, the job of the military is to break things and to break things more efficiently than anyone else. If the leaders of the country say, hey man, we don't like what them people over there is doing, go break this stuff. That's our job, to go break the stuff. Some of us are actually taking our feet and our hands and our minds and actually moving objects. Like, we are directly involved in pressing buttons, moving levers, or what have you, to affect that change. And then others of us, like me specifically, are in a support role where what we do allows those people that are pressing the buttons to go do what they need to do. And like, rationalization says, well, I didn't actually press the button, so I ain't wrong. I didn't do that. I'm not responsible. Nah, man. Nah, man. In the military, everybody's hands is bloody. From that personnelist that made sure that airmen got paid, your hands bloody too. Your hands bloody too. But I don't know. I do see, like, from a Judeo-Christian standpoint, according to the scriptures, God was out here telling Israelites, the children of Israel, to wipe people out. Wipe them out. Today they would call that genocide. But the children of Israel, God was telling them, he said, I want you to kill the men, the women, the children, the aged, kill their livestock, everything living. Wipe it out. Wipe it out. And there were times where they got punished because they didn't listen. They didn't listen. Saul, the first king of Israel, he basically had the kingdom stripped away from him because he didn't commit genocide. Saul made a choice. He was like, man, I know that's what the prophet said, that you had said, that God has told him to do, but really I'm in charge. I'm the king. And I think, rather than kill everything, let's take the best of what is. Let's take the best of the best, and we can take that good stuff that they have, and let's sacrifice that to God. We're going to give that to God. And that'll be a better way to do it. And so he lost. Like, I mean, he still was going to basically commit genocide, but he just didn't do it how God say do it. So, I mean, I don't know. I think in a roundabout way, we have a precedence in the scriptures where God was telling a nation of people to wipe out another people as a form of judgment. Now that was under the Old Testament. Under the New Testament is grace. So I haven't necessarily studied that and looked too deep into that. But I know when I was getting ready to go in the military, I did consult with my pastor. I was like, hey, uh, I'm getting ready to go in as a dentist, but I was having like second thoughts. Um, and we talked about it, and he helped me, and I ended up making a decision to go ahead and go forward. And I, even after all of that I just said, I still don't regret my decision to go into the military. I believe 100% it was the right thing for me to do. And the military might not be the right thing for everybody, but it was the right thing for me. And so I'm thankful for that opportunity. I'm thankful that I got a chance to serve in the world's greatest military. And this is the world's greatest military. Make no doubt about it. In terms of like groups of men and women that are an arm, an instrument of power of the state, there's no other military in this world that does it better than the United States military. And there's only 1% of the population that raises their hand and volunteers and say, I'm going to do this. And I get to be in that number. So this is a privilege. It's a privilege. So I said earlier in the live stream that, this is like a morale day. And so we get to wear, our civilian clothes. But honestly, if I'm in a uniform, my morale is boosted. If I'm not in a uniform, my morale is boosted. That like what I have on doesn't necessarily impact my morale. I think what people say and what people do probably impacts my morale more than anything. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get up in here, get me some work. I probably do like 3.5 hours of work today, solid work. Probably realistically more like 2 hours. If I go into the office. If I go in that office, we gonna talk, we gonna smoke and joke for about an hour and a half total time. So maybe I should go in that office. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. Y'all have a good day. Be blessed, and we'll see you later.